Jin turns towards the bubbly-like figure and lets out, revealing his name. Enough with the jokes from this fool. Ghibli, let us begin. Take us now to the true battlefield. Leaving Ghibli to simply reply, Of course, Lord Jin. May you be blessed by the power of Zeno in your battle. And as Ghibli changes his expression to a grimace, he yells, We shall see what you are really made of now, God Killer. Let's see how things go when the cards are in our favor. To which a pleased Martinu finally says, Yes, let us see what this mortal can really do. Location change! Leaving Ghibli to finally unleash his spell that spreads an unknown and mysterious energy / magic all over the planet's surface. And before Vegito can even react, the whole battlefield and atmosphere completely changes, as if on an entirely new planet with new scenery. The confused Vegito, still looking around, would only then comment, Well, that's new. Are we even still in Universe 12? Why the hell would they move me here? What the? But as Vegito turns his head in front of him, something far more alarming and strange is sat right before him. As he comments mysteriously, What's the deal with this place? And what is that? Some kind of new Margin Boo? Tch! And here I thought you were going to just fight me! As it is soon revealed, in the middle of the battlefield is a strange but intimidatingly large metal box. All alone, unmoving, and without a trace of sound. Sitting right between Vegito and the 3 Universe 12 residents. But the supremely confident Jin, who watches on at Vegito's bemused reaction, then responds, We will fight, Saiyan, just in due time. But first, as an esteemed guest in my universe, I have a welcoming gift for you. Before instantly, as if synchronized, all 3 of the divine beings then vanish away, much to Vegito's surprise. Eventually arriving miles away atop a mountain head, as if distancing themselves away from a detonation. But Jin, looking down at the wizard Ghibli, would then calmly, unknown to the ears of Vegito, say, This will be far enough. Unleash him now, Ghibli. Let Gaiba out. And Ghibli, who at this point already has his arms up in anticipation, just replies, Gladly, my lord. Before... Release! Before in a sudden yell of pure conviction, Ghibli screams as if commanding the very box itself. So loud, Vegito hears him too. What? What's that scrotum lookalike yelling about now? As right in front of Vegito, dark pink smoke begins to bellow out from within the confines of the metal cube, until finally, in a loud crash, the walls and roof of the cube explode open, slamming individually onto the ground as if having been praying to have allowed to escape for millennia, as inside, a lone, somewhat unassuming figure is seen. The slam and sheer volume of smoke that escapes as a result is enough to even partially blind Vegito, who comments, What now? I knew that box wasn't just for show, but what the hell is inside it? I'm free! As from within, a young man with a vicious look, still confused over his sudden escape and freeing, looks around observing his surroundings. and once we get a full view, we see his fairly ordinary stature, just with notably both his arms being chained down still, despite the walls of the cube falling. But as we hear him talk, he reveals where he is even looking, and it isn't at Vegito, as he says, "Over there he is, there's that monster Jin!" And just like that, without a second's more thought, Gaiba vanishes now, with now no more metal walls and seals to stop him, leaving the mysterious chains to clang behind on the ground. And breaching the gap with unfathomable speed, we see Gaiba rushing straight towards Jin, Martinu and Ghibli, his sights firmly aimed at the destroyer as he screams, "I'll kill you for what you did to them! This is for my family!" I thought we'd have at least a few minutes before he regained full control of his body, leaving Jin looking unshocked before... I guess it can't be helped. As Jin then covers himself with both arms, ready to defend himself. And just moments later, Gaiba finally lands, effortlessly moving past Martinu to land straight on Jin's blocking arms, causing the destroyer to grimace in pain even after defending. But as Jin is sent flying away, he in his quick-thinking state, as if having already knew of this outcome, turns his head to Ghibli yelling with urgency, "Ghibli, what are you waiting for? Place the seal on him now!" Without a second in between, knowing the situation, Ghibli obeys his lord, firing off more of his mysterious magic straight onto Gaiba. And immediately, Gaiba is left frozen on the spot, shocked like a deer caught in headlights, his only words being muttered, "No, not again!" before falling to his knees before the wizard helpless, then grabbing his head as he tries his best to mentally fight back whatever Ghibli has done to him, as he grumbles, "No, you're taking over my mind!" Revealing to us all, he appears to now be undergoing the same kind of attack Vegito once faced at the hands of Babidi in the Boo Saga. And soon enough, a mysterious dark pink energy emanates from Gaiba's body, just like the smoke that bellowed from the metal box earlier, and Gaiba rises to his feet, silent now, right before the completely confident and calm wizard, who lets out, "Yes, that's it, Gaiba. I'm glad you finally have learned your place again." As when Gaiba finally arises, stamped on his forehead is a mind control seal, just like the Margin M Vegeta, Spopovich and Yamu once had, but this time in a strange G, named after Ghibli himself, or could it be after Gaiba? With Gaiba now calmed down, Jin suddenly appears once again right before the controlled Gaiba, and staring him straight in the face now, without fear and a smug mannerism, he whispers, "Yes, that's more like it, Gaiba. We are not your enemies. We are your family. We kept you alive all these years so you could one day avenge your family. Your enemy is him, that stranger before you, the killer of your entire clan. His name is Vegito." Vegito! But suddenly, as this piece of information is shared to the now extremely impressionable and malleable warrior, something deep within the recesses of his mind and soul snaps for Gaiba, as his body begins trembling until... Turning his head just like he did with Jin previously, Gaiba stares directly at Vegito, as if looking directly into his soul. Oh, here we go. Whatever that fish face has told him, he's probably made him think I'm the bad guy here. Well, so be it. If you don't want to use your common sense, then you can die because of it. As on Vegito finishing this thought, Gaiba rushes in once again with ferocity at Vegito. This time with even more power and speed, now coated in lightning. It's as if, just as with the margin symbol, Gaiba's power has been amplified through the darkness and hatred in his heart. But Vegito is no fool, and having just observed what happened earlier with Jin, he immediately readies himself into fighting stance, thinking to himself, this guy is no joke. Even the destroyer fears him, it seems. Better safe than sorry, I guess. I'll start with blue. After all, I didn't exactly get to use it much with black. But suddenly, just as Vegito begins powering up, a noticeable lack of any change happens. As Vegito wonders, What was that? Why isn't my body transforming? But as Vegito wonders why he suddenly has lost control of his abilities, Gaiba does not let up, landing his attack on the still confused Vegito right on his jaw, sending blood splattering everywhere. As Vegito is sent flying into the strange curved rock formations in front of him, mid-flight, he still wonders, something isn't right here. My body isn't responding how it should. I'm trying to transform even now. Before crash landing, hard as expected, deep into the mountain. But watching closely from afar, not letting up, is Gaiba, observing silently, until we zoom in on his face and his mouth and cheeks begin to fill up and expand, as a faint sound of rising energy can then be heard. As out of nowhere, Gaiba in Nappa and Broly-like fashion fires off a massive beam of energy straight from his mouth, sending the speeding beam shooting right towards the unassuming Vegito. As Vegito himself just barely gets up from the rubble of the last attack, grabbing his throbbing head as he moans, damn, he hits hard. At least while I'm in base, that is. But why can't I transform? It's like my body isn't listening. Could it be that Babidi look-alike? But as soon as Vegito continues to think, yet again he is interrupted as his whole face and surrounding area begins to illuminate from the quickly appearing larger and larger attack from Gaiba. And as expected, in its quake, a humongous explosion is seen, one that would be far too much for just a base Vegito to be dealing with normally. As standing watching afar now, with his mouth smoking from being scorched by his own attack, is Gaiba, grunting in silence while his whole body looks noticeably much larger, as if growing in strength the more he attacks. But of course, despite the mysterious area holding Vegito back, he eventually fires straight right up from the smoke of the explosion. Furious in the face, and now damaged all over, including his brand new armor, Vegito emerges, breathing heavily, before yelling out, You damn gods! What have you done to my powers? But staring from below, still with his arms crossed, Jin would remark, "Foolish Saiyan. Isn't it obvious by now? We've studied and observed you damn Saiyans for a while now. We know how you work, how your power comes from these absurd transformations you have. Super Saiyan God and the such. You even have a specific God killer form. But that all ends here, doesn't it, Ghibli?" As Ghibli, providing more information, agrees with a smile, responding, "Yes, my lord. Just as you had planned with your infinite wisdom, I moved this unsuspecting fool to an entirely different dimension. One where I control the rules." Before Jin, now showing a truly demented expression, then explains finally, "You understand yet, God Killer? In this dimension, transformations are forbidden. None of this artificial boosting of your strength. Here, you fight and die as you were born. Strength and techniques only." Of course, hearing this now though, Vegito is left stunned. He'd never been to such a place before, and that was the last limitation he'd have expected, as he worries. "A dimension where I can't transform? So, I have to beat a god, an angel, and this freak in base?" But Jin, not wanting any more time to be wasted, like a slave driver, then points his finger to the God Killer and yells, "Quickly, Gaiba! This is your chance! Avenge your family and slaughter this monster!" Leading the enraged and desperate Avenger to rush at Vegito like his life depended on it. Damn it! Vegito, though, who is still recovering from the last attack, is almost scared at this point, at how the cards are stacked up against him, and mysteriously begins closing his eyes one by one until... In the nick of time, Vegito completely dodges the speeding attack. All the while, his eyes are both closed. And as if perfectly choreographed, then instantly begins swinging forward an open hand. Striking perfectly and precisely with an open palm, right onto Gaiba's exposed chest, sending the young Avenger flying backwards from the sky. Until eventually regaining himself by dragging his feet all across the battlefield. But as we return to Vegito, he looks completely at peace, no longer scared nor full of overconfidence, as he remains with his eyes closed, silent until, with the briefest of remarks, he opens his mouth and says, "Fine. If transformations really are out of the question here, then I'll rely on the two techniques I know that will make up for them tenfold." Before out of nowhere, in an act of madness, Vegito begins powering up yet again, as if he had just forgotten that he had access to no more of his transformations. But regardless, somehow, someway, Vegito's power level begins to skyrocket, and mysteriously, his entire body then becomes enveloped in aura. A strange, red aura, as even his skin becomes crimson tinged, and one by one, his arms become bigger, his face more veiny, his chest larger, and then even his back grows to gigantic proportions. And in the end, when he finally opens his eyes, they look noticeably Ultra Instinct-like in fashion, but just this time, completely red. And surrounded in his crimson aura, he just confidently then lets out, "This is no form, but I call this Ultra Kaioken." What? Oh no! As one by one the god, angel and wizard react in their own horror and terror to the new power being displayed by the god killer, until finally, Ultra whatever, you will pay! As with the final word, Gaiba stares, still enraged and still not worried in the slightest.